Hi there, everyone. It's 4 o'clock in New York. For more than 100 years, the motto of the Justice Department has been a Latin phrase that translates basically to who prosecutes on behalf of justice. Donald Trump's Justice Department has taken that motto to mean instead who prosecutes on behalf of Donald J. Trump. There's brand new reporting today that Trump's DOJ has set its sights on E. Jean Carroll. E. Jean Carroll brought 2 civil lawsuits against Donald Trump, and she won. In one case in 2023, a jury found that Donald Trump was liable for sexual assault. The following year, she won $83 million in damages in a defamation case she brought against Donald Trump. Now, a source familiar with the matter confirms news first reported by CNN to our colleague Ken Dilanian that DOJ is now conducting a criminal investigation into whether E. Jean Carroll lied under oath about outside funding for those 2 civil cases. CNN reports that prosecutors are looking at her 2022 deposition, in which she said she received no outside funding, although it turns out that entrepreneur and billionaire Reid Hoffman did pay some legal fees and expenses. E. Jean Carroll's lawyer declined to comment. The New York Times is reporting that acting AG Todd Blanche has recused himself from the case since he was Donald Trump's lawyer during the civil case E. Jean Carroll brought against Trump. But it's worth wondering if the Justice Department is acting as Donald Trump's law firm all the same. The DOJ under Blanche has been laser focused on pursuing Donald Trump's critics. Just weeks ago, former director of the FBI Jim Comey was indicted over an Instagram post of a picture of beach shell art. And now E. Jean Carroll is under criminal investigation. They're reviving an argument that Team Trump has already failed in a court to use against her. New York Times reports that before that first trial, Trump's lawyers accused E. Jean Carroll of hiding that she received outside funding for her case. They brought it up in their appeal of the verdict that found Trump liable for sexual abuse. When Trump lost that appeal, a 3-judge panel looked at the question and found this, quote, Ms. Carroll plausibly represented that she had forgotten about the limited outside funding counsel obtained in September of 2020, when this question was first posed to her in 2022, and the additional discovery did not indicate otherwise. Rather, it showed that Ms. Carroll simply was not involved in the matter of who was or was not funding her litigation costs. Donald Trump using the Department of Justice as his own personal law firm to pursue the woman who beat him in a court of law is where we start today with some of our favorite reporters and friends. Senior investigative reporter Carol Leonnig joins us. And with me at the table, political analyst Molly Jong Fast. She's the host of Fast Politics and a New York Times contributing opinion writer. Also joining us, NYU law professor, our legal analyst Melissa Murray. Carol Leonnig, take me through what you know about the reporting on this story.
Yes, this is a little tricky, Nicole, and I hate to start your panel with saying this is a little tricky, but there have been a lot of people sharing information that the Justice Department is zeroing in on Jean Carroll, and I don't think that's wrong. But I want to be careful about what we say about the status of this investigation, which, by the way, is run out of the U.S. Attorney's Office in the Northern District of Illinois, which is obviously Chicago. And that district has been looking at Carroll and some of her statements, but also looking very much at Reid Hoffman, which makes a little more sense. Reid Hoffman is the individual who essentially provided some free legal help, his donation to help finance Jean Carroll's civil lawsuit that was so successful against Donald Trump and really did humiliate and annoy him to the ends of the earth. This case bothered him almost more than the business fraud case that Letitia James and also a New York court found against him. Again, back to this being tricky without being too legally nerdy, my understanding is that prosecutors in Chicago have been looking at Carroll almost as another subject, along with investigating Reid Hoffman and his contributions to her fund and to her suit, as well as a nonprofit that he runs.
Why does Reid Hoffman live in Chicago? Is that the reason that this office is involved in the E. Jean Carroll investigation?
That, my understanding is, forgive me that I was reporting right up until the moment you said, here are some of our favorite
No
guests.
apologies.
So I can't, with great surety, tell you his residence. My understanding is that venue, this is from sources inside Justice, my understanding is venue is far more reliable in Chicago related to Hoffman. It could be because he lives there. It could be because his business is there. And I can't say with certainty, Nicole, but I'll find out during the break.
I mean, Carolyn, just more broadly, whether she's swept up in an investigation of another perceived political enemy. I mean, Reid Hoffman is a prolific Democratic donor. Or she's being targeted because a jury found Donald Trump liable for sexual abuse. And then I think it's a different jury that found him guilty for defamation, or maybe it was the same matter. It is of a part. I mean, Tish James, Jim Comey, John Bolton. I mean, this is, and your reporting really makes it richer. It is E. Jean Carroll and Reid Hoffman under criminal investigation by Todd Blanche's Department of Justice.
Dead right, Nicole. Dead right. This is of a piece. This is a Justice Department that, you know, I never thought I would say these words as just a straight up objective reporter, but this is a Department of Justice that has put all its oars in the water, especially since Pam Bondi's firing. It's accelerated this desire to prosecute every possible case that would please Donald Trump, that would go after someone that has angered him. And honestly, again, back to the tricky factor, I think some of the goal of the framing of who this case is focused on is partly because that is something anonymous sources want to please Donald Trump with, right? They want to make him happy and say, look, we're going after Jean Carroll. And no doubt she is swept into this, no doubt, given they'll be analyzing her statements, they'll be looking at perjury. But this really is, at least at the moment, I'm told, focused on Hoffman. Back to your point of this is of a piece. I've never seen a Department of Justice spend so much time on cases that career prosecutors find disdainful, a waste of time. And back to your really smart question, if you don't mind me addressing it, the issue could very well be here, and we don't have enough facts. I hope to have more soon. But the issue here could be we have a way to possibly bring charges about Hoffman and sweep Ms. Carroll in. I've heard that two of the statutes that they're looking at are money laundering and obstruction. Sources have told me this makes zero sense, but maybe there is a fig leaf of a legal justification for doing this, and maybe there are real facts to back this up. We just don't know yet.